Coming up to join us next on the live stream is Kyle Lennig, the shareholder of Stradling Attorneys at Law. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. All right, so we had...
You must be exhausted by now. You've been up here forever.
I'm getting there. I think I got a couple more hours to go. Somebody might have to bring me a coffee at some point. So we had Lynn Weaver up here earlier, and obviously the biggest news in the LA area is that Three Weavers partnered up with Canarchy, and you played a role in that. You advised Lynn and the Three Weavers team, correct?
Correct.
So maybe talk to me about that and talk to us a little bit about the deal specifically from your standpoint, as much as you're able to share, what you saw as sort of the benefits to a company like Three Weavers and why it made sense and what she was really looking for.
I've been doing this for a number of years now and have been involved on a number of larger M&A transactions in the beer business, and I can say that without a doubt, it was the most exciting transaction for me to be a part of. Working with Lynn is really great. She is a fantastic business mind, and the whole process was really an opportunity for me as an attorney to help give her options and talk through those options in a really open and frank way.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I think there's more folks on this floor and more people in the industry that are willing to have those conversations about kind of what the next step is for their business and their brewery and the industry, and without necessarily putting labels on anything. And the relationship with Canarchy just seemed like a natural fit for her and for Canarchy. They're really trying to build something that is a little different than what other people are doing, both at the small scale and at the large scale. And so Lynn really saw that as an opportunity to kind of be part of something bigger and help the brewery shore up their resources and be able to kind of move forward in a direction that's going to be hopefully beneficial for all of LA beer.
Yeah. Now, you talked about Canarchy building something different. In your opinion, what's different about what they're doing versus, say, what larger strategics like Anheuser-Busch or Miller Coors are doing, or even some of these other roll-ups that we've seen out there? Well,
there are certainly some similarities to what's happening with some of the other kind of roll-ups. For example, the Brooklyn transactions, but I think that what Canarchy is doing and what Brooklyn is doing are significantly different than what the ABI and even Constellation and Miller Coors transactions are really accomplishing. They really are connecting a lot of founders into a collaborative network of breweries that is going to maintain their status in the industry as independent breweries. And notwithstanding that, there's going to be centralization for certain things, and I'm not privy to a lot of how those decisions get made, and some of what I know can't talk about. But it's exciting to see them take that next step and build regional and regional breweries and with a national platform, and also try to maintain some of the local authenticity to some of the breweries that are growing in their portfolio is the wrong word, the network.
Yeah, for sure. So you look at a group like Canarchy, which does have investment from a private equity firm in Fireman.
Correct, yeah.
And, typically there is a time horizon on that investment. And what we've heard and what Canarchy has, said multiple times now is that, there really isn't a timetable on when they need to return that value to the investors, and they could continue being patient and writing this out for longer than, say, the 5 to 7 year window that most private equity firms operate on. What's your sense of kind of how long they have to continue doing what they're doing and building what they're building? And what do you think is sort of the last step for them? I mean, do they IPO? Do they sell the portfolio to another investment firm? I mean, what's sort of the final outcome?
Well, I think you're answering your own question, which is all those options would probably be on the table for them.
Yeah.
They definitely are getting into the business with a strategy that requires some patience. and they're going to have patience, not just in their acquisition strategy, but also in how they decide to kind of move forward on an exit or otherwise make this looking at towards the end of the road. I don't necessarily think that there is a timeline, or everything that I've been told has been consistent with what you've been hearing. And I think that's honestly the only way that you have to approach this business right now. You have to take it day by day and look around and always be reassessing what your opportunities are. And when there is an opportunity, you got to jump on it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's probably, I don't really think that maybe they even know what the next step is, or a strategy in the short term. They're going to be reacting to the market in the same way that a lot of the other folks are that are trying to build their businesses up at a much smaller scale.
For sure. So one of the other things that you specialize in addition to M&A, is helping companies understand and better navigate debt. And we've seen a lot of situations this year where breweries have over-leveraged themselves, taken on too much debt to expand too quickly. Do you expect to see more of that in the coming months or years?
Well,
and how does somebody avoid falling into that trap?
I have absolutely seen and participated in conversations with clients about debt regularly, and the conversation is different with the kind of negative outcomes from some of the big breweries out there. There isn't necessarily a rush to necessarily add as much debt as maybe there would have been a year or two ago. But I think that's healthy. I think a lot of these breweries need to think of debt as another tool in their toolkit, as a way to grow their business, potentially in a way without giving away too much equity. And equipment financing and SBA loans are still the king of financing in the beer business at the small level, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But the scale with which debt is used as a leverage tool in the middle, where those for regional breweries, is, I think, already starting to drop off. And to the extent that breweries are using leverage at that size and that 10,000 barrel to 20,000 barrel level, or even a little bit above that, they're going to have to do so with a bit more prudence, and I believe that people are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a scary time when you look at the growth slowing to, 5% midway through the year. And of course, that's a top line figure, and there's examples of breweries that are doing really, really well. There's examples of breweries that are doing not so well. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and it's really difficult to paint it with a broad brush. But when you start to look out and you start to look at some of the companies that are most at risk moving forward, what are the characteristics of those companies that you think are potentially on the verge of a distressed situation?
Well, I think it's no secret that the breweries that are heavily reliant on distribution and are in the middle tier, I would say, it's of size, are the most exposed, and that's why you're seeing those breweries doing the most soul searching right now. The ones that are interested in doing transactions where they're having liquidity events, whether it's for the whole company or some portion of it. And I think that because they're being squeezed from both sides, the local markets are being more saturated by local breweries that are popping up to service those local markets, and at regional distribution, it's hard to compete in wholesale. It really is.
Yeah.
People's books are full, shelves are really hard to get attention on, and so if your business is built on distribution, and it's more and more important for you to kind of reconsider almost on a daily basis your projections, your financial models, what are your assumptions, and what's your downside if things don't go the way you are. What's your next step?
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a lot to consider if you're one of those companies that, as you said, is kind of stuck in the middle. So
there are opportunities for them as well, though. So it certainly is something that, depending on who you are and what brewery you are with and which region you're in, you just you tread lightly, but it doesn't mean that people should be necessarily scared. You just have to be careful.
When you say there's still opportunities, you mean for them to continue growing or for them to transact possibly?
Both. I was referring more toward growing. I think people generally have to reconsider refocusing on their local markets.
Yeah.
And a lot of opportunities are still in regions of the country. I mean, Three Weavers is an opportunity, is an example.
Right.
There's lots of growth opportunity in Los Angeles in wholesale for them. And so,
well, and that's probably why Canarchy was so interested.
Exactly.
I mean, they're buying the growth, right?
Yeah, 100%. Growth and the opportunity.
So maybe give us a prediction for the rest of the year where you think things are going to shake out in the craft space, and maybe is there anything coming down the pike that we should be keeping our ears out listening
I think you're
for?
going to see a couple of more transactions. It's not any mystery that folks are still out there and interested. I think that you're going to start to see the trend of fewer acquisitions by the big guys play out likely over the rest of the year. Not to say that they're not interested always, because they are, but they're just being much more careful. And I'm really excited about the emergence of craft-on-craft acquisitions as a real viable alternative in the M&A marketplace for craft beer. And so I think that that's not going away anytime soon.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's a great prediction. Kyle, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
Thank you.
joining.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Someone needs to bring you a beer up here.
I know.
though.
Someone needs to bring me a bill. Maybe
Yeah.
Dr. Bill Sysak
Yeah.
will have one.
Yeah.
Thanks so much,
you.
Kyle. All right.